Hey everybody, wanted to pop up for air to give you guys this interview that I recorded with Jason Prall not long before the day job and I parted ways, and I dove headfirst into a few awesome projects that we've been working on nonstop ever since. That's where the podcast has been. Hopefully you all saw the explanation that where's the podcast, and even in that explanation I said it was probably coming back in a few weeks, and I think it's been longer than a few weeks at this point. So still working on those big projects, although good things take time, and we may just end up bringing back the podcast before our projects are entirely complete. The projects, again, are an all-encompassing, step-by-step guide for parents going through childhood cancer. Literally everything that we did, everything that I've learned along the way, everything that I wish I knew back when we started, just everything. It's something I'm really proud of. But it is something that, as far as the content is done, but just all the other stuff that comes along with putting something like this out is still in the works. And we want it to be something that we're really, really, really proud of and that does the best job serving everyone it needs to serve. So that is still in production. And the other project is still top secret at the moment, but that is getting ready to change. In just a couple of weeks here, we'll be able to let you guys know what the mystery is. But we're really excited about that as well, and I'll probably just come back on. Who knows? Maybe we'll start the podcast up here pretty soon. And the podcast itself, if I didn't already mention that, will be renamed along with this is Ryan Sternagel of the Stern Method, not Ryan Sternagel of My Kid Cures Cancer anymore. If you guys have been following us on Facebook or Instagram, I don't know if we said anything on YouTube or the podcast here yet, but we did change from, it's no longer My Kid Cures Cancer, it is the Stern Method. It was a long and a very soul-searching process for it, but we just did not want the word cures cancer in our brand name anymore. It's just with the powers that be and everything, they don't like that word, and we want to be able to be sure that we are able to keep doing what we're doing without something stupid like that slowing us down. And also just the word cancer in general, while it is, it is what brought us to where we are today. We do not want to label ourselves as cancer from a family, mental, spiritual, energetic health reason. It's just not something that we want to be putting on ourselves, and it's not something we want to be putting on you, quite frankly, for following us for information. If you're not going through cancer, then you shouldn't have to be following something about curing cancer. And if you are going through cancer, I would encourage you to stop using that word. If you are using it a lot, stop labeling yourself with it. Stop saying my cancer, or I have cancer, or my kid has cancer, or da-da-da. It's just another healing strategy that is just kind of common sense when you think about it. You don't want to be labeling yourself as having cancer or, claiming that cancer. And so in that spirit, that's really even the bigger reason, besides the cure word, that we did decide to do something new, and that something new is the Stern Method. We're the Sternagels, which is hard to pronounce, or it's not hard to pronounce, but it's hard to spell. And this is, so it's the Stern, and it's who we are, it's what we do, it's how we do it, it's why we do it. It's the Stern Method. So that is the website going forward. That's the Facebook page. That's the Instagram page. That's the YouTube page. Although I think YouTube won't let us change our actual link. So the link will still be youtube.com/MyKidCuresCancer. But you can just search the Stern Method in YouTube and find us there. You can probably also still find us with My Kid Cures Cancer for a while anyway. But that's the story with the rebrand. This podcast will be renamed as well to something that's not the Stern Method or My Kid Cures Cancer. I got a pretty good idea what that's going to be. It will probably be the next time we put out an episode, which may be next week. Who knows? We're kind of making decisions by the seat of our pants here, but we'll probably have the new name secured and rolled out by then. Anyway, this episode, why we're putting it out today, is with Jason Prall. If you're not familiar with him, he has an awesome documentary that actually airs today. If you're listening to this podcast on Tuesday, May the 8th. If you're listening on Tuesday, May the 8th, that's when we're releasing this podcast. The Human Longevity Project will be premiering today. We are actually featured in the documentary, The Sternagel Family. And what's really cool about this is these guys traveled the whole world to find the cultures with the longest lifespans and the lowest rates of disease, and that includes cancer. And so they drew all these different conclusions from interviewing all these, locals, these people that actually live in these cultures that live the longest periods of time in the whole world. And they also combined it with interviewing a bunch of health experts and, people with interesting medical or health stories like us. And they put it all together in this awesome multi-day docuseries type thing that's really well produced. I've seen a lot of it already, and it's really cool. And like I said, they go really deep on just some really high level health stuff. I mean, it's kind of taking it back to simplicity, but on the other hand, they're talking about a lot of stuff that even I haven't really heard much about or thought much about, and that's actually saying a lot these days. So it's really cool. It's a really well done thing, and we will put a link in the show notes to this episode. So if you go to thesternmethod.com/Jason-Prall, and Prall is spelled Prall, you can find out. You can register to watch the whole thing for free. They're airing it nonstop for 7 or 8 days. It goes a while. I forget the exact number of days, but it's a really well done thing. Definitely go check it out. And in this conversation itself was really, really good. Jason, like I said, all of these cultures lived the longest times, and they had the lowest rates of disease, including cancer. When you think about it, cancer is, you can call it a result of a lot of things, but one of the things you could really boil it down to is us just getting away from nature, us just getting away from the way God intended us to live. And when I say us, I don't just mean like, me or you individually. I mean us as a society and all the environmental stuff that comes along with that, and the way we live and the way we eat and everything we're exposed to, and just everything. So when you take the reverse of that, that's, you can start making some really interesting analogies and conclusions. And Jason had a lot of interesting stuff to say on this topic, on cancer in general, and what he saw as, being the exact opposite of some of the ways we're living now. That could be a huge cancer preventative, but also if you were going through cancer, it's stuff you really, really, really want to take note on, because you want to be pretty much living the way the people that live the longest live. And there's all sorts of cool, like I said, again, please watch the Human Longevity Project. Again, you can find out, you can register for that at thesternmethod.com/Jason-Prall. Prall is Prall, but also please continue listening to this episode, because Jason talked about a lot of cool stuff that I haven't even seen mentioned in the docuseries yet. So that's it for now. Stay tuned for more future plans from us at the Stern Method. Ryan, Teddy, Ryder, Channing, Sternagel, the Stern Method. That's it for now. See you guys. We have with us Jason Prall. Jason, how are you? Thanks for coming on the show.
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Very good to see you again. And you're looking, well, I guess I was going to say you're looking tan, because I know you're traveling all over the place, but then you also live in Southern California.
Yeah, well, I was in Florida, so I actually got a chance to take advantage of that.
Very cool. Very cool. And I guess, I would love to talk about what you're doing right now. And we're kind of chatting. Maybe we'll get into that at the end. But and I just read your bio too, but just, for anyone that is interested, what is it, Jason, that you say you do? And and let everyone know what you're working on right now, because it is really cool. And I'm looking forward to jumping into it a little later in the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I practice health. I was in sort of this integrative functional medicine model. I'm not a doctor, but I did practice in a way that is sort of in this integrative functional medicine style, working one-on-one with clients. And in that practice, you're dealing with people that have chronic dysfunctions, imbalances, diseases, as we like to call them, from autoimmune disease to cancers to skin issues to digestive health to hormonal imbalances to infertility, all the whole spectrum. And the thing that I recognized doing that and working in practice was that we're always coming in after the fact and trying to fix things, right? And trying to resolve a disease or an imbalance or dysfunction. And as part of that, what I recognized was that a big thing that's lacking is the education around what keeps us healthy and what builds health and what maintains health, and the philosophy of health. So I found myself educating more on those things in sort of clinical practice, if you will, to the point where I really wanted to move over into that space because I felt like that was the big gap. There's plenty of amazing functional medicine doctors, integrative oncologists, integrative medicine doctors out there, chiropractors and acupuncturists and all kinds of different people out there healing in that world. And I found a big gap in this idea of what health is, where it comes from, and how to do it. We just seem to have lost that in our culture. So that's really where I've moved my focus, is to educating the health side of the equation, which is very different from the medicine side of the equation, because you're not fixing something, you're trying to prevent something. You're trying to teach the lifestyle practices, the mindset, the emotional components of what builds and maintains health. And so we're working on a documentary film series right now called the Human Longevity Project, where we're using the concept of longevity as a way to discuss optimal health. Because if you look around the world, the cultures and the peoples that are living a long time, it's not just about the number of years. They're really maintaining a pretty darn healthy biological perspective into their 80s and 90s, which is pretty different than what we see around here. We're seeing infertility in our 30s, seeing hair loss, we're seeing hormonal imbalances. And then, when we get into our 40s and 50s, that's just sort of the common age where everybody starts getting on meds to manage something. And then by the time we're in our 70s and 80s, we have dementias and Alzheimer's and physical degeneration, rampant. And so we don't even see what health looks like in our 70s and 80s. So we kind of fear our 70s and 80s. And we don't really feel like we have a purpose, because we're pulling all our old people out of society and putting them in homes. And it's just a weird place to be. And so we wanted to go around the world to talk to these people that are 90, that are 100, get their perspective on life, get their perspective on health, get their perspective on relationships. And so in this film, that's what we do. We go around the world and talk to these people from all around the world. We talk to a bunch of experts like you, dealing with cancer and your perspective on that, which I really actually find very profound from call it layman's perspective, right? You had to learn all this stuff, not because you were interested in cancer or childhood cancer. You were forced to. And so we've got people like you in there that had to do some of this stuff. We've got experts that are in the research field, that are in the university level, that are in functional medicine, that are looking at various aspects of both disease and health. And so that's what we're really working on now. It'll be released in early May, and we're pretty excited about it because we wanted to teach what health is and where it comes from to sort of complement this sort of integrative functional medicine that we're seeing now grow in our culture.
What's kind of funny is I temporarily forgot as we were talking that we were in that movie.
You guys crushed it. We got Ryder on, and I mean, it was really cool to see. And again, I think what was really cool about talking to you guys on camera, and people will see it in the film if they watch, is that you had to look at everything, right? And you guys, I think, especially with childhood cancer, had to recognize that it's not just about the amazing medical staff that you were able to cultivate, but it's about what you're doing every single day. And, we kind of talked about this, how Ryder's kind of been your guys' savior, how he's forced you guys to be healthier. And I think that's a really important lesson that we should all take home, which is that whenever you're dealing with an imbalance or a dysfunction or a disease or something that you're dealing with personally, it becomes a teacher. If you let it, it becomes a mother, right? It becomes something that will show you the path to be healthier, to live a better life. And that's not often what we're told. We're told that we've got something wrong with us. We're told that we got to fix something about ourselves. And I look at it a little different. I look at it as an opportunity to grow and to align ourselves with what is healthy for not only us, but people around us and the planet and the whole organism that we call life. That we just have to switch our perspective on that. And if we do that, I mean, everything can change, for us and everybody around us. And I think that's what was cool for me to see about you guys, was you allowed that to happen. And that's not always the case, right? I mean, especially with childhood cancer, it's a very difficult thing to deal with. And you can get a little bit your perspective can go one of two ways. You can be resentful and angry, and that's a very understandable emotion. There's probably a flood of that came from with you guys.
Had a touch of that too.
Right? Yeah. But then you can either sit with that and keep that as your paradigm, and be angry at the system, angry at the situation, or you can let that move through you and move to the positive side of things, which is, well, this is where we're at and what are we going to do about it? Right. So, I think that's such a healthy approach, and I think it's such a good approach. And I think once you get over to that side of the equation, I think you start to see the positives in the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, on that note, just listening to you talk, I just kind of had the thought, the whole paradigm of, well, let's say there is, an opportunity to grow. There's something wrong with you. Say you got a cancer diagnosis, say your kid got a cancer diagnosis. Obviously that's something that needs to be fixed. And on that note, it's kind of, well, you have to see, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with an oncologist or a naturopathic oncologist or a functional medicine doctor and so on and so forth. And, we're big proponents of needing all those guys. But at the same time, it's kind of interesting the way just society and the information age is coming in, where, every person has access to all this information and piles of accumulated knowledge and research journals and so on and so forth. And I was just, just listening to you talk. You're obviously very well educated. I've, heard plenty of, your interviews, a whole lot of stuff, and we'll talk about a whole lot of, geeky mitochondria stuff in a second. But do you just want to get into that? How, to my knowledge, you don't have any sort of medical license, do you?
Right. No.
And, but, you help people. Now you're doing the documentary and stuff like that, but I mean, you've come up in the health space, whatever you want to call it, helping people get well, just based on everything you've learned as, quote unquote, a regular guy. I don't know. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit? Because that's kind of what we're all about is taking matters into your own hands and
100%
doing your own research and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, actually it's funny because I actually just say I'm just a guy. Because people ask you, well, are you a doctor? Are you, I said, just a guy, and I said, where did you train or where'd you get your education? And I say, basically Google University. And I will say that I think it's, if anything, if we want to spin this and see the silver lining, it's the best time to get sick because you have the power now. And I will tell you that from my own experience, I had pretty chronic, debilitating joint and knee issues at 13 years old. That was 1993. Internet wasn't really in existence in its current form. It was still in the back channels of governments and weird organizations at that point. So I didn't have the understanding, the knowledge, the ability to even go research this stuff in a real way. In a at least it wasn't readily accessible. And then I had pretty weird skin issues at 21, which was like 2001. I mean, this was still like we were using web crawler and I don't even know what we were doing back then, but it wasn't like it is. And so I had I had very limited access, even though it was still kind of out there. It was just starting, and it was like cuckoo stuff, right? I mean, that was still very alternative. And so that's where I started, was forced to look at my own situation and figure out what was going on and there wasn't functional and integrative medicine people out there. There's some naturopaths, but there wasn't really what we see now.
The term itself is pretty new advent.
100%. I mean, in the past 5 years, it's grown. So there's a new understanding, a new knowledge base out there that I think we all have access to. And with the way the internet is now, I mean, my God, it's insane. So the question still remains though, that information is completely useless unless you're willing to take responsibility for yourself and really do the work. And again, it's not easy. It's tough. I mean, if you're in a financial debt, you can file bankruptcy, right? I would compare that to sort of a doctor, where it's a very sometimes necessary step and a very good thing. But then you got to figure out, okay, how do I make money? How do I get back into the black and support myself, right? So we can use all the analogies in the world. I mean, you break your leg, right? You need to cast it. You need a doctor for that. You need to cast it. You might even need crutches. Very useful tools. But do you want to remain on crutches your entire life, or do you want to really work to rebuild and learn how to rehabilitate the leg, right? And then that allows you to grow and do all the things you want to do. Same thing with health. If you aren't willing to take responsibility for whatever happened, and sometimes it doesn't seem fair. Sometimes it is nothing you've done. But that doesn't mean it's not an opportunity to grow and learn. And so I 100% think that it's easier for us now to resolve resolve our own challenges than ever before. And the empowerment, this is the beauty of the internet being sort of democratized and, at least for now, free. We have the ability to take the power back into our own hands. And this is the underlying theme of the film that we're creating, which is to create a sense of empowerment, create a sense of education, so that you understand that your body already knows how to heal. The beauty of Ryder's case, right? It's not like anybody healed him. You just found the right people to facilitate the healing and allowing the body to heal itself, right? And he's still on that journey, and you're on that journey. I'm on that journey. We're all on that journey of allowing our bodies to continue to do what it knows how to do. So whether you believe in a divine creator of any kind, or nature, or just biology, through sort of this natural selective kind of process, the tools are built within you. That is the empowering message. And if you just get a little understanding of how to allow that to happen, the body works magic. To the point where we still don't know how. I bet you we know a fraction of 1% of how the body actually works, because it's so miraculous. So I think this is the cool thing, is that we have the access, we have the knowledge out there. We just have to take responsibility and bring matters back into our own hands to allow the body to heal.
Yeah. No, it's funny you made that point about so I just told you I'm just working on our My Kid Cures Cancer childhood cancer course coaching program, online coaching program, whatever you want to call it. Haven't quite figured out the name yet. But I think that's the very last sentence I just left off on was, whether you believe in God, which we do around here, and it makes things easy. He very clearly designed us to heal. Or if you just, straight up believe in evolution, then obviously it's a pretty good survival trait. And you can see it when you cut your finger or break your leg or whatever.
100%.
It's so either way. Yeah. It's, and then you extract that out to cancer. Obviously, at the end of the day, it's you have to give the body what it needs and remove any obstacles to healing. And there's probably there is more obstacles when it comes to cancer that have accumulated over time. And the body's probably lacking in more things, because otherwise, it wouldn't have come down with cancer. But at the end of the day, it's still, it is that simple, so to speak, is just figuring out what's wrong and then reversing it, or, giving it what it needs.
Yeah, 100%.
And do you, on that note of figuring things out for yourself on the internet, while the internet is great and there's more
tough
than ever, do you just want to talk a bit to, and I don't even know what it is I'm looking for you, but just any kind of overarching themes or decision-making processes, or how you wade through information, take all these different sides, just, I don't know, anything in terms of just how you figure things out for yourself and reconcile everything and come to what you think is, a good idea at the end of the day.
Yeah, this is important. Honestly, this is the crux of the matter right now. It's because we're overloaded on information, and everybody seems credible to some degree, right? This is the tough thing to do.
Having this podcast is, it's mind trip. Yeah, because
everyone
sounds real smart, but they don't agree with each other. So
exactly, and there's beauty in that. Okay, and this is the beauty that you can find this in every realm of science. You can look at pure research and you'll see differing things. You can listen to two amazing people that have worked and helped a lot of people, and they will disagree. So I think here's what I will say, and this is where philosophy comes into play, is if I can give people an underlying philosophy to trust, it's trust nature. Okay. And again, we can talk about it as universe, God, pure nature, however you want to think about it, but trust nature. And that is to say that we have to think about how organisms operate in the natural world, right? And this is, they're communicative, they're in community, there is dynamic balance, there's cycles, there are life cycles, we're this new modern invention. Even the things that we're doing right now, this is not a natural thing that our organism has developed over the past couple thousand years. So think about anything that is new, that is not in alignment with nature. Is a chemical that's a man-made, is that in alignment with nature? Obviously not. So right there, we can suggest that that's probably not going to be good for us or in alignment with us, right? Even supplements, right? We have to take a very critical eye with supplements and say, okay, well, this is not a natural way that this nutrient would have been delivered. So therefore, I immediately have to be cautious. Doesn't mean fear. Doesn't mean, question, to everything so much that you don't take action. But if we can develop the critical thinking about, is this natural versus is this man-made new way of doing things, then you're always introducing the possibility that it's going to throw things out of balance. So in other words, if I eat, something like turmeric, the root, and I shave it up and put it in a smoothie or shave it up and put it in my food, that's pretty natural, right? But if I take a curcumin supplement, that's unnatural. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that that's not the way nature designed things, right? And I'll give you a great example with that turmeric and curcumin. We've seen studies that show curcumin's really beneficial, for a lot of different things, even particularly with cancer. There's a lot of aspects where it can be beneficial. But here's the thing about the turmeric root. It has other things. It's got turmerones. So if you're taking pure curcumin, you're missing the turmerones. So what is and we know turmerones are actually beneficial. So now we have to ask ourselves, okay, what else are we missing? What has science not identified that is in there? And how is it all working together? Because nature designed it so we can assume that there's some magic, if you will, that's happening. And so again, is it better to take turmeric root or curcumin? Well, it depends on the situation. But generally speaking, I would always advocate for using turmeric root over the turmeric types, capsule or whatever. So if you can just, first of all, frame everything and filter everything through, is this the way nature intended it? And if the answer is yes, probably pretty good for you. Does it mean that that's your only solution? No, not necessarily. But that's a really good place to start. And whenever you see two opposing, views, like let's say this person's advocating, in the case of cancer, this person's advocating a pure raw food, 100% raw food diet. And this person over here is advocating something like the Gerson therapy, which the old Gerson therapy was like raw liver and some juicing and other things. Well, I would say talk to other people, see what you get back, take it all in. Don't immediately make judgments, but also what feels right for you, right? This is what we lost, I think, in a big sense. What feels right for me? And it's really fascinating when you get people that are really in touch with that. I would say, generally speaking, women are really good at this. They're a little bit better at feeling, and you call it intuition. You can call it, we feel it in our body if we're tuned in, but trust that intuition a little bit. And I've spoken with people that have no dogma about food or diet, and they will get this weird intuition or this sense that like, I'm supposed to be vegetarian right now. And they'll go vegetarian and they'll do it for a while. And they might, if they're really in tune. In fact, I was just talking to Paul Chek about this. And if you don't know who Paul Chek is, he's a wealth of knowledge. And he's a lot of experience in dealing with some pretty ridiculously difficult cases. And he was talking about how he was a vegetarian for like a year, and every day he'd ask himself. And he says, I asked my soul, do I want meat today? And then they would, his soul, however you want to frame this, but his intuition, his guide, his gut, his God was telling him, no, not today. You stay vegetarian. And then at some point he got the message, yes, it's okay to eat meat now. Now you want to eat meat. So this is an interesting way to operate. And I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but if we can be in touch with what we really need and want, the body's going to tell us, and the gut and the heart and the mind and it's all working together to give us messages, right? And they may not be the one our brain would have chosen because it read some research and that made sense. But if you just sit with what feels right for you, but also what feels right for your lifestyle, people will argue about all kinds of exercises. Well, I may have a different lifestyle that suggests I would do better doing something else. And when it comes to exercise, the studies have shown that if you're playing, if you enjoy what you're doing, that's generally the best exercise. So if you enjoy running marathons, like you're probably going to do better with something like that versus weightlifting, which you hate. So there's a lot to work into it. I will say the best advice I can give is take it all in. Don't resist any understanding or knowledge that's out there. Evaluate it for yourself with your critical mind. Evaluate it for what feels right. And at the end of the day, it's just the reality. You have to try things. And to deny something out of resistance because you haven't tried it and it's you're just reading somebody else's account, you don't really know. You may be right. It's not to say that you can't make judgments that way, but at the end of the day, you don't really know. because you'll hear people say all kinds of different things that have worked for them. So some things are trial and error. Some things you need to feel what's right for you. But overall, I would say the easiest filter is to say, is this in alignment with nature? Does nature do things this way? And if the answer is yes, or if the answer is I don't know, then research that. And then that will help you sort of figure some of these things out, because we're starting to see too many extremes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
A lack of balance, a lack of experience. And, you got all these diet books out there that are demonizing foods. And it's like, sorry, there's not a bad food. I'm here to tell you that. Nature did not design a bad food. We can demonize,
just eat a little bit of everything and
if it doesn't work,
way.
Exactly. And so, nature didn't design wheat to have all kinds of glyphosate and, elevated levels of gluten. And I mean, we did that. We screwed up the wheat. So, and then we processed the heck out of it the wrong way. Well, yeah, of course it's going to be bad for us at that stage. But if we operate the way nature intended, and the best way to look at that is through, I don't want to say evolutionary lens, because I don't really think that way. I think about more of like, what are other people doing in more natural societies and cultures? People always want to go back, especially in the sort of paleo community, want to go back to 10,000 years ago. Well, that's based on our sort of incorrect understanding or imperfect understanding of evolution and history. And yet we have people right now that are living in a natural way. And so we can just look at those. And that's really what we want to do with the film, is look at what other people are doing culturally around the world to sort of gain some of that knowledge. And they're eating wheat in some places. They're eating tomatoes and cheeses and meats and fruits and all these things. Beans, we demonize these things in our culture. So again, is it natural? Have we done something to change it? And if so, then we have to be a little more critical with that. But if we start off with this idea that wheat is bad, or beans are bad, or any food is bad, I think it's an incorrect understanding, because we don't trust nature. And I think that's a really weird thing. For me, I've found that rice and sweet potatoes and some of these sort of starchy carbohydrates work really well for me. For other people, they just don't. And so figure out what works for you, filter it through the lens of nature, and use your intuition. I think that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Like, I got into the whole, I don't know, the kind of fasting, mitochondria, low carb, all that. So yeah, I got really into all that stuff. But then like lately, or not even lately, it's been a while now. I really like the intermittent fasting, but you know what? I also like oatmeal. And so and I still feel like I'll intermittent fast and then have oatmeal at noon and I feel pretty good after the oatmeal,
And that's the perfect thing. And this is what's cool. Like, you tried something because you saw evidence and you heard people talking about it, and you're like, okay, well, this seems valid, and there's a lot of science behind it and a lot of evidence. So yeah, it makes sense. Let me try that. Right. And then you try it and it may or may not work. And here's what's crazy is that you're always changing. Like, you're not the same guy as you were yesterday or 5 years ago or 15 years ago. So we always have to keep that in mind, that what worked for us 2 years ago, maybe may modify, right? So this go back to Paul Chek's example of, he asked himself, do I want meat today? And so, and that's a very sort of, I guess, extreme way of thinking about it, but just keep in mind that the you 10 years from now may need something different, and it may be worth it to go about it in a different way. Because I've done all the things. I've done, way back when I did the Atkins style of things, which was just all about basically protein and fats. And then I went to sort of this keto, and then I tried high fat keto. I've done a lot of different things. Now I seem to really understand my body. Maybe right now is the time for me, but I do really well with a lot of carbohydrates. And I will still actually remain in a state of sort of ketosis in certain ways, because I keep my feeding window shorter, right? To like 11 or 10 hours. And that's not even an extreme intermittent fast technique. It's just more of a traditional intermittent type of fasting. So again, I think we can look at other examples that were before us. We can look at examples around the world. We can feel what's right for us, and we can continue to modify. And we have to stay open, I think. Being closed off to different ideas, I think it just holds a lot of potential for you to miss the mark or not find the optimal thing for you. So I would just say stay open.
Yeah, no, it's great. And that's, it's why I've had more and more, I don't know, I always fall back on calling them woo-woo, but, just people that talk about the mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic side of things, because I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's our only, really solid answer is, what does it do for you? And, are you able to really tap into that kind of inner knowledge and know if something's going to be right for you or not?
Yeah, and I think it also gets us out of this polarizing viewpoint where we're butting heads with people that we disagree with, or that don't share our viewpoint, right? I think it's so important. If you're hearing somebody talk about some really woo-woo crap, and you're like, what the heck? This guy's off the deep end, but that's interesting, right? And so we don't need to fight that. We don't need to, if it's challenging our paradigm, maybe that's a good thing, because that's sort of opening us up. So I think if we can just remain open, accepting, compassionate, and if we're doing something different, I mean, that's okay. I mean, we see this in the political sphere, we see it in the diet sphere, we see it everywhere. And there's so much polarization and so much fighting about viewpoints that I think it's doing us all a disservice. We all lose if we're in that state. So it's okay to have a different viewpoint. Just find out what's your truth. Find out what works for you, and remain open to all this stuff. And just something sounds a little off. Oh, that's interesting. It's a really weird viewpoint, right? So that's okay, right? We're all on this sort of independent journey, figuring out what our truth is, what works for us, and what we're here to do. So I think it's important that we remain open and compassionate to those who have different viewpoints.
On the intuition piece, when I'm working with, we work kind of one-on-one or one-on-two, I guess you could say, with childhood cancer parents, or sometimes one-on-one. To the point I'm about to make is, I find a good 90% of the time, as far as when it's two parents and are they open to integrative or alternative or whatever you want to call all this stuff, it's always the woman, and the dad is like I'm too scientific for all this stuff, I'm not going to look at it. Have you kind of found the same thing in your working with people, that it's usually women that are at least more open to this stuff?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that's just, I think that's the qualitative difference between women and men. Women historically have held a different position in the tribe, in the community, in the child rearing process. And I think they have sort of, say, specialized skills or specialized developmental kind of understandings of certain things, and men have others, right? So there's no better or worse. There is differences. And I think I've seen that for sure in women, that they tend to just be more open to these type of things. But I've also seen a lot of men that are that way too. But yeah, I think 100%. And generally speaking, the people that I always work with are women. I'd say about 90% of the people I work with are women. I think part of it is because A, they're open. B, they're more likely to sort of take action on their health, which is, guys, we're sort of independent and we think we can do everything. And, we want to stick to science and I know best, right? So we have sort of a little bit more ego dominance in that regard. But yeah, I think this, and if you go back to like native cultures, the Native Americans, women held sort of the final say in certain aspects of what was happening in the tribe, and males had sort of the final say in other aspects, right? And so they recognized that there was qualities that tended to be more associated with the feminine and the females, and there was qualities that tended to be more applicable for the male roles. And so, it's very interesting. And I think if we can recognize that, then we can really capitalize on our strengths. And it's not always the case. I mean, men go one way or the other, and so do women. So it's not 100% of the case, but I think very strongly women have certain traits that they're really good at, and we can remain open to that.
Yeah. And it does always drive me crazy too, though, when it's like, that's the excuse, is people are too, men or women are too scientific. Cause it's like, come on, like,
it's 100%.
That's all I did when my son was diagnosed, is get on PubMed and go through peer-reviewed medical journals of all of these different, effects on the cell when these different compounds were introduced, and, all this stuff. It's like, it's very unscientific to just to brush off all this stuff. It's
100%. Yeah. I mean, they're both very important, I think. Again, men tend to be more analytical. That tends to be why they go into more of the engineering and, maths and all these things, but it's not always the case. I mean, I went to engineering school and we had women in there, and they were freaking smart. And, they were really analytical. So it's not a matter of that. It's just a matter of, playing off the strengths, I think. And there's no better or worse way. They all hold value. The question is how do we integrate those and really take the best approach for us?
Yeah. And you brought up so many good points when you were talking there earlier on, just the whole piece about, bringing it back to nature. in terms of being like the ultimate evaluator. Or I guess for me, it's actually nature and the Bible. I'll kind of, cross-reference the two. I think especially now, like you're saying, when things are getting so polarized and like it's like keto versus Gerson versus, the fruit people versus, like,
Everywhere.
it's, and they all, like you said, they all sound smart. But then especially in the case of cancer, it is also, there's another level, and I'm interested to get your take on this, it's not like you're looking for what's the most natural and what is the most God-given and all this stuff. But then at the same time, it's, yes, there are, like, when you're trying to reverse cancer, the best thing you can do just for your overall lifestyle is bring it back to everything as natural as possible. But then at the end of the day, there are things that are therapeutic that you wouldn't necessarily do otherwise in an otherwise healthy life. So it's like with your example of the curcumin and the turmeric, it's like, well, if I'm just looking for like a general health supplement, it's going to be turmeric all day. But, in the case of trying to reverse a cancer diagnosis, now is that high dose curcumin supplement a little more attractive? And, I personally, like, I cover both bases. I'll do a high dose curcumin supplement right along with a turmeric supplement or something like that. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on, like, that natural view in light of a cancer diagnosis, and say, like, supplement wise and also, ketosis wise? Because I think personally, as a lifestyle, the keto people go way overboard. But then I also see the very plant-based side just kind of rejecting every possible benefit of being in ketosis at all out of hand. I guess I'm interested to get you, if you want to bring up any particular examples, or just like how that natural framework of viewing things, how would you apply that to, okay, well, yes, it's natural, but I also have this cancer diagnosis to reverse.
100%. Yeah. And it's a very good point. And I'm fully in line with sort of the lead-in philosophy that you're alluding to here. And I'll give you a natural example of this. Babies are sort of meant to drink breast milk when they're infants, right? Does that mean that you should drink breast milk as an adult? Of course not, right? Like, so even along our lifespans, you have to look at the context in which we're applying anything. So yes, I think in any severely imbalanced state, like a state of cancer, we now have to potentially look at an imbalanced solution to bring that back. So 100%, if somebody's really, really overweight, they're going to do probably something different. They can stand to benefit from something different than somebody who is not overweight or maybe even needs to gain weight, right? So you have to look at always the context in which you're going to apply anything. And when it comes to cancer, yeah, we have things like hyperbaric oxygen. We have things like the Gerson therapy. We have high dose vitamin C. We have, hydrogen therapy is actually becoming a big one now. We have all kinds of different tools and techniques and therapeutic approaches that we can use. And I'm 100% in alignment with that. The crux of the matter, and this is where it gets difficult, is that you have to figure out, because anytime you're using an imbalanced or therapeutic or targeted solution, you got to make sure that it's going to be the right one, right? And this is where the integrative oncologists, this is where the therapeutic doctors really come into play. And so then the question is, okay, well, how do I know which one to do, right? And this is where, again, I would say go back to your gut. And we talked about this with you guys, I think you guys fired a couple doctors. You guys moved states to find the right doctors. This is the right approach, in my opinion. Yeah. Search out the type of doctors. Remain open to all of it. This person's talking about the benefits of hyperbaric oxygen. This person's talking about the benefits of ketogenesis. This person over here is talking about high dose vitamin C, IV glutathione. There's all kinds of therapies. How the heck do I know which one's good for my infant who's got cancer, or an old person that's got cancer? Well, go around, take it all in, figure out what's right for you. Listen to shows like yours who bring on all kinds of different viewpoints. Some of them are on the very opposite end. That's very healthy to take all the information in and say, I resonate with that. That seems to make sense to me. Let me go find somebody that can talk about that, a doctor. And you go talk to the doctor and you're like, I just didn't doesn't work. I don't feel it from them. That's not going to work. I don't like this person's philosophy. I don't like the way they talk, whatever it is. And then you might go find somebody else. Okay, this person's much better. So I think this is the approach you have to take. Take it all in and understand that anytime you have an imbalanced situation, autoimmune disease, severe digestive issues, whatever it is, rheumatoid arthritis, Alzheimer's, dementia, we have lots of therapies for these things. Some of them we would call alternative, but they're really not alternative. They're just ways that we can understand biology to sort of manipulate things back into a balanced state. So 1000% do I agree with extreme solutions when it comes to extreme imbalances. This is honestly where I would say even chemotherapy and radiation. Chemotherapy is a poison. In most circumstances, I would say that's ridiculous. But in certain cases of cancer, yeah, maybe that's part of the solution. Probably not the whole solution. I would always say it's not the whole solution.
Say that, yeah.
And even for some mild cancers or maybe non-progressive or non-threatening cancers, I would say you can probably avoid that, and just generally speaking. But in certain instances, it might be a really good part of your solution. So I think you have to take the context, especially when it comes to cancer. We're told that cancer is just cancer, right? It's one diagnosis. There's one type of cancer. It's one thing. No, right? And I'm sure you guys have talked about this. There's many types of cancers, even in the same tissue. So they can't all be looked at the same way. And ketogenic diets are fantastic for various types of cancers. I've seen some cancers where ketogenic diet is catastrophic, at least in the research. I don't work in the cancer world, so I don't proclaim to sort of know anything about, in terms of experience, because it's not really what I do. But you can find research on ketogenic diets being not very good for certain cancers. So, but most of them seem to be very beneficial with a ketogenic diet. And so, again, it gets really hard. You kind of have to buckle down and do some work. This is our responsibility. Nobody's going to take control of your life except you. This is where taking responsibility and owning that to some degree is important. But we have resources, and people are open to sharing their ideas and thoughts. I know people that have gone the traditional route of chemotherapy and radiation and gotten back on their feet. And it's like, geez, your body was able to do that, to deal with that without any other therapies. That's crazy, right? But it speaks to the magic of the human body, right? So I think what we all should be thinking about is, how can I incorporate things from a lifestyle, from a diet, from a mental, emotional standpoint to get back to a better state of health? And I know some practitioners and maybe more healers, I would say, in various cultures, that look at cancer, generally speaking, especially in adult populations, probably not kids, but that it's often stored anger that is the ultimate cause of cancer. And that's a really interesting viewpoint. So then what's the solution? Well, probably want to work on whatever that emotion that may be trapped in that's sort of feeding that sort of energetic imbalance. But also, it doesn't mean that you don't do anything else, right? So I think there's lots of therapies, and I think the therapies are critical. You have to figure out which one's good for you. But what is not negotiable, in my opinion, if you're dealing with any cancer situation, you can't mess up your sleep. You got to focus on sleep. Right? So there's universal aspects to all diseases, right? Good sleep, lowering stress in any way, removing chemicals and toxins in your environment, eating a whole, natural, real foods, whichever spectrum you're on. If it's organic and it's whole, probably a good start, right? So there's certain things that I think, and we were at your place last time when you guys had all the hard wires running around your house, right? That's maybe sounds like an extreme solution for people, but like people forget 15 years ago, we didn't really have Wi-Fi, like universal Wi-Fi, and so people think that if you don't have Wi-Fi, how do you have the internet? Well, I got a cable plugged into my computer right here so I can shut off my Wi-Fi, right? And it's not inconvenient. So again, these are steps that we can all take, whether we're dealing with cancer, autoimmune diseases, sleep issues, whatever, that we can take. Even overweight, being overweight, people struggle to lose weight, and they're doing all these things and different diets, and they exercise and they can't lose weight. Well, there's a lot of reasons that we can look at: circadian rhythm, light, electromagnetic fields, emotions, that can prevent us from getting back to a healthy weight. So we can incorporate these very basic things no matter what disease state. And that has to come with, in my opinion, whatever therapeutic approach we take, if we want to get back healthy and remain healthy and get back as soon as we can. It will always give you the best chance.
Yeah, no, like I think I was starting to tell you before we recorded, but that is pretty much why we are building a log home in the middle of the woods, with hardwired, what not hardwired, shielded wire to
Yeah.
electric fields and shielded Ethernet cables to every room. Yeah, we got a greenhouse, a geodesic grow dome greenhouse, and a couple pallets ready to be built.
Well, and here's what's interesting about that. So I bet you if you talk to a lot of people and you said, this is the way to optimal health, they're going to look at you and go, oh my God, like it's so expensive and it's a pain in the ass. But I'll bet you $1 million, you guys are actually really looking forward to getting to a state of that, of implementing that, right? Like, because the security, the health. I mean, to me, it's like, if I can implement something healthy, it's like fun, it's like exciting to be able to operate that way.
And the funny part is, especially around here in Park City, but pretty much anywhere, we're actually doing it on. We've been through childhood cancer the last few years, spending all of our money on all this expensive, fancy therapeutic stuff. We don't have a lot of money to spend on this thing, and we're still, making it work because we're spending the money on the important things, not, it's not going to be
extra Netflix and Amazon and all these extra things, right?
Yeah.
But that's a really good point. I mean, it's a reallocation of resources, of finances, of priorities, and that is where you're going to find the solutions, right? I mean, a really good example of this is we just made things so complex, right? You go into an organic grocery store, co-op or something, and people will go and buy the organic apple chips for like $4 a bag,
yeah,
versus like an apple, which is like 80 cents or something, right? And it's like, that's a perfect example of trusting nature and the complexity and the expensive aspect of making other choices. Where, what if we just chose the apple instead? It's not as exciting, it's not as fun, but they're both transportable, they both last, and one is made by nature.
Yeah, or best of both worlds. Teddy is pretty handy with a food processor and even a dehydrator. So you could buy the snack bar or whatever for $5, or you could throw a bunch of things in a food processor, not even dehydrated. Just she made these tasty balls the other day just by throwing some cacao and a couple figs and some nuts and seeds and stuff, and they were delicious.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you know what you're eating,
Yeah.
You can make it whenever you want. I mean, but again, that just requires a little bit of allocation of resources in a different way. Mental resources, emotional resources, financial resources, and time resources, right? I mean, that takes a little bit more time, but at the same time, you're saving a trip to the grocery store. There's just all kinds of things. You have to operate in a different way, to think a little bit differently. But once you start to move that direction, like, it just becomes fun, and it becomes less expensive and healthier, and it just becomes your life.
So, in a little bit of a departure from this broad-based theoretical discussion, you got me thinking about the back to the natural versus, especially in the supplement world, is it something that we've done to kind of alter it? I heard a very interesting interview on fish oil the other day, and I also saw you get into a pretty one-sided, it was as you against many debate on the Facebook a while back. Everyone else being pro fish oil and you thinking, maybe it might need a second thought. Completely random topic, but since I plan on having someone on just about that, maybe a little taste of things to come for folks. What are your thoughts on fish oil, Jason?
Yeah, fish oil is a tough one. Okay, so I mean, I think we have to look at what the whole process of fish oil before we get into any sort of science that's looking at fish oil in a study. To extract fish oil, what does it take, right? I mean, that's a very difficult process. You've got to find a way to extract it using either pressure or heat, or some distillation process, which is very difficult and very expensive. Then you have to be able to encapsulate it somehow, using either a preservative or, a capsule that's going to prevent light from coming in. So if we were able to extract fish oil in a very good, healthy state, now we have to keep it in a very good and healthy state. And fish oil by nature is it gets damaged by oxygen, by light, by heat, by pressure. And just over time, it will degrade. So the last thing that we want to do is be taking an oxidized oil of any kind into our body. It's very damaging in a lot of ways, and it's something your body's gonna have to deal with. And so my question always goes back, why would I take a fish oil versus just eating fish if I think omega-3s and fish oils are good? Why don't I just eat sardines? Why don't I just eat salmon? Why don't I don't get it. So for me, there's sort of this weird practical aspect of things of like, even if it was in theory perfectly stable oil, and I thought that was good for me, why don't I just eat the real thing? So that's step one. Number two is there's actually some pretty strong debate over whether or not it's a good thing to take fish oil, right? I mean, what we're really looking for is EPA and DHA in the fish oil. That's really the two fatty acids that we're trying to really garner the benefits from. And there's actually a lot of research that's showing that the omega-3s aren't really that beneficial. And this is a very controversial sort of statement right now, because I know that they're the sort of poster child for all things health. But again, I like to use evolutionary framework to discuss things. And I don't mean evolution in the sense of Darwin. I mean evolutionary in the sense of time and what humans have done. And if you look at the biology, humans don't convert EPA, which is the precursor to these, alpha-linoleic acid, to EPA and DHA. In other words, there's a conversion process that the body goes through from certain oils to this other DHA or EPA, and it doesn't convert well. So we don't convert oils very well in our body. So the question is why? And I always go back to a philosophy of like, well, perhaps nature designed it that way. Maybe there's a benefit to having just the right amount, and we let the body decide how much to convert. And so again, I trust the body. I trust nature. I trust divine intelligence. I trust that we have things built within us for a reason. And so I don't know that taking fish oil is going to be a solution regardless. And I think you can always tip the balance in the wrong way whenever you take a therapeutic approach. So the question is, okay, let's say DHA or EPA or fish oil is good. How much to take? When do you take it? When do you stop? When do you reduce? We don't have good science on this. So even if we take a scientific perspective, we don't really know. And then all the science that you have to look at, is it done on humans? Which humans is it done on? Do we have the benefits of X fish oil on X cancer patient and the outcomes and the doses and all these things? If we do, okay, maybe we can look at that. But if we're doing it on rats, if we're doing it on mice, if we're doing it in healthy humans, it's a different case altogether. And we're doing it in an artificial way or artificial setting. This is the problem with research, is that you have to confine the constraints, right? So these constraints are artificially blocked in, and they're not in the real world. So there's a lot of issue when we look at research. But ultimately, my stance is that fish oil gets oxidized very quickly outside of the body before we take it, and also inside of the body when we take it. So I don't trust it as much as some other people do. Now, I'm not going to say it's bad, and I'm not going to say it's damaging, and I'm saying don't take it. I would encourage people to question and look at both sides of the argument, because if you search, you will find lots of research and a lot of health experts that will show you very, very geeky things to explain why fish oil, DHA, EPA is not all that it's cracked up to be. And it can actually slow your mitochondrial electron transport chain production of ATP down. And so the other aspect is that if we think back to nature and human history, which societies would be eating lots of fish or getting a lot of fish oil, if you will, this DHA and EPA? Would it be people by the equator? No. We don't find those fish oils in the fish that are around the equator. We don't find high levels of DHA and EPA in those fish. We find them in cold waters, in Alaska, in the Arctic. That is used to basically slow things down and keep things warm. So if you're living in San Diego like me and you're a human, no human that lived in San Diego 400 years ago would be getting lots of DHA and EPA anywhere. So again, I think we have to take lots of different viewpoints here. And to me, looking historically at the context, very few people on the planet would have been getting lots of DHA and EPA. That's sort of filter number one. Number two, the conversion doesn't happen very well in the body naturally. So to me, that argues that we don't need a lot of it to be healthy, and we don't need a lot of it to function in a balanced state. So, and then three, we're trying to extract it in weird ways, and there's a lot of potential for damage. And number 4, when you look at research, you have to look at context. So if you have a certain situation, maybe it is beneficial. But generally speaking, I'm very cautious of fish oils. If you want to go that route, I would say just eat fish. So that's kind of my take. It's sort of an unsexy answer to say that I don't really know. But all the signs that I look at point to not needing it, not really seeing that there's tremendous benefit from it, even though at one point I was arguing for it and I was taking cod liver oil. So, I mean, it's not like I've always been in this camp. I've had to flip my position because I was made aware of different ways of thinking, of different information. And in fact, there's a lot of cod liver oil companies that have been getting a lot of flack for really poorly produced cod liver oil. So you just have to be careful with all this stuff. Again, as soon as man starts to manipulate, we have the opportunity to screw things up. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, my stance is sardines are delicious. And, but yeah, no, it's interesting. I just, it was maybe a couple months back that I started hearing these interviews, on the other side of things, but just like you mentioned, it's always kind of like you're trying to find these sources of omega-3, like you're trying so hard,
right?
Like in nature to get
doesn't exist. Yeah.
It's only like 2 seeds out of all the seeds that are higher in omega-3. It's only like fish out of all the animals that, it's like, well, should we really,
and I think, and there's other aspects too, which is to say that even the salmons have a season. The salmon have a salmon run, and so even if you're living in Alaska or Seattle, where I'm from, we've got great salmon, but it's a salmon run. And I've been in Alaska when the salmon are running, and it's funny. Everybody takes off work and they go fishing all night, and they come over and they look like they're hungover. And I'm like, geez, you got drinking last night? I'm like, no, I was fishing. So even the salmon, even the fish have seasons, and so that's an aspect. But what I think is probably going on with the omega-3 debate or the evidence that suggests that omega-3s are good is that it's probably more of a balance, right? The balance between omega-6, omega-9, omega-3, omega-7, we have all these different omega fatty acids. I don't think the answer is we need to up all of them and we need to get more of all of them. I think what we're probably seeing, if we see a benefit, is that any omega-3s that we're eating or taking are probably balancing things out a little bit. That somebody may have an omega-6 overload or omega-9 overload or omega-7 overload. And therefore 3 comes in to balance the equation. But I think if you just continue doing what you're doing, eating tons of omega-6s and omega-9s, and then you just say, oh, I'm just going to eat tons of omega-3 now, I'm not sure that's a good thing either. So I think it's probably more of a balance in terms of each other and also a balance in terms of everything else that we probably find, if any benefit, that's where it's going to be, is in the balance. So context matters, timing matters, seasons matter, individuals matter, research matters, right? And so again, I don't want to create this I don't want to escape the question. What I want to do is create thinking in people and a different idea, philosophy to look at things so that they can make good decisions for themselves. And if you find that omega-3s and a fish oil is the right way to go for you, then go for it, But hopefully we can step outside of just the PubMed research articles that are showing us in a study that this is beneficial, because I can tell you that there's a lot of fraudulent research out there. There's a lot of peer-reviewed garbage out there. There is a lot of good research that comes to wrong conclusions out there. So we just have to be careful with trusting research. I would say trust experience, trust your thinking, trust biology, trust evolution, trust nature, trust divine intelligence, trust the body. That's really where we need to be. And then we can use these sort of other things to maybe help get us thinking in a different way.
Did you have a stop negative 5 minutes ago?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Couple more questions. I'm excited to get out of you. So you mentioned ATP, excuse me, electron transport chain, mitochondria, all that good stuff. In the context of I don't know, the cancer landscape, and we were talking a little bit before we got recording here. All that stuff is coming into play, but then maybe it's getting overemphasized, and maybe we're thinking too much about. I don't know. I guess maybe bringing it back to the high level philosophical a little bit. But just, what is your thought on the mitochondria, on, ATP and energy production in the context of cancer? On the one hand, yes, I mean, the whole cancer as a metabolic disease is, pretty compelling. But then on the other hand, it's like I was saying, well, how did the mitochondria get damaged in the first place? All that good stuff. I don't know. Just what are your thoughts on, the landscape of the mitochondria discussion today in terms of cancer? I'll just kind of let you roll with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think mitochondria is critical in cancer. I think it's of utmost importance to understand that mitochondrial health is intimately tied with cancer. Critical. It is the case. And I think the reason that's important to say and to recognize is to suggest that means that it's not a genetic issue. There's very, very few genetic issues of cancer. So I think that is the really important takeaway, is to say that we have this organelle in our cell that is really probably playing the biggest role. And there's probably other things that are playing a role in the cell that are not mitochondria related, but that it's not the genes that are the problem. And so that's empowering message, okay? If you say that your genes are the problem, that's a very disempowering message because you can't change your genes. But if we say that mitochondria and other things in the cell are really where the things matter, then we can go, okay, well, what affects mitochondria? And how do I improve my mitochondrial health? And that is really the crux of the matter. There's lots of people looking at cancer and mitochondria and the caspases and electron transport chains and ATP, both in intracellular and extracellular ATP. There's lots of things going on. So you can geek out all day and learn all you can know about ATP and cancer and mitochondria. But I don't think we have to go there. I don't think, unless you're a clinical oncologist who really wants to figure out, specific therapies that can influence mitochondria in one way or the other. I think the empowering way to think about this is to know that when we sleep well, mitochondria, can rebuild and regenerate, repair. When we fast for 12 hours, mitochondria can rebuild and repair and recycle. When we fast for 18 hours, same thing. When we fast for 36 hours, this is where the magic is happening inside the cell. And the other aspect is that we now know that microbiota, particularly in our gut, talk to mitochondria. And this is true everywhere. We have microbiota, these little bacteria and viruses in our skin, deep within our skin layers. We have it on our skin. We have it everywhere, in our blood, in our brain. But these microbiota talk to our mitochondria and communicate about the outside world. Right? It's a really cool concept that nature kind of plays this game of, well, the food comes into the pie hole, and then the microbiota sort of metabolize these things and say, okay, well, we know what this is. And so therefore here they spit out very interesting communication molecules, things like hydrogen sulfide, reactive oxygen species, which we can think of as oxidative stress, short chain fatty acids, butyrate, these type of things. Those are signaling molecules to the mitochondria. The mitochondria go, oh, okay, we know what's out there now. That way we're going to do this. So this now, if we understand that mitochondria are one of the keys to understanding cancer and overcoming or moving through cancer, then we can understand that microbiota talk to them, which means we can understand how food may affect these things as well. And so there's an empowering message in the understanding that mitochondria are important. And it just reinforces the lifestyle factors that go into keeping the cell and the mitochondria healthy, which can then help us recover or avoid cancer. So another good example is the electromagnetic fields, and the things that you guys have done show this, that there's an important thing there, that these electromagnetic fields we know affect mitochondria. How exactly and how much and what it's doing precisely, we're not there yet, but we do know that they have an effect, and we know that the electromagnetic fields that we have in our environment, again, going back to nature, don't exist the way that we've created. So we've never experienced this level of electromagnetic radiation in our environment. Therefore, we should immediately, if we have the right philosophy, think that maybe this isn't good for us, even if science isn't there, right? So again, this is why using nature as a template or as a filter is such a powerful tool, because all of a sudden we can go that, yeah, putting a cell phone up to my head is not a natural thing because there's tons of electromagnetic radiation that was never seen before, so we have to understand the things that affect mitochondria. And so if anybody's trying to improve mitochondrial health, I will say the basic things that you can do: get really good sleep, lower all kinds of stress, emotional and mental, remove toxins and chemicals from your environment, and do things like sweat, whether it's through exercise or saunas or infrared saunas or yoga, hot yoga, whatever, sweat. That's a really good thing to clear out toxins. Intermittent fasting, or even longer term fasting, if you're in the right position to do so, can really, really strengthen and rebuild and repair mitochondria, because they go through this recycling process where the damaged ones kind of get recycled and new strong ones come and take their place. And so you get fusing of mitochondria, you get all these amazing things that are happening inside the cell when you do things like fast for 12 hours, which is really easy. I mean, basically, I love that we're coming up with this idea of intermittent fasting, like it's this new science. And it's like, no, this is how like my grandma ate, right? Like she's not. I
love the analogy of just do what your grandma said, because it's, yeah.
Right. It's so true, right? So I think that's the thing to know about mitochondria. And we can really geek out on mitochondria and get really, really, in the rabbit hole and into the weeds. But at the end of the day, that's for researchers, in my opinion. That's for oncologists. That's for, clinicians to really understand that stuff. For the lay people, and even for those people that I just mentioned, they need to be doing the things too. So you can, which is really funny, because I've seen researchers get so geeky on mitochondria and then they don't like sleep well and they don't, eat the right way. And I'm like, well, this stuff from the research, but you don't do this stuff. So the very thing you're studying and trying to understand, you may end up with that problem. So it comes down to the practical. It doesn't have to be, rocket surgery to try to understand all this stuff. You just have to go to the simple things and trust that the body is going to do what you want it to do. And mitochondria, in my opinion, are critical in understanding cancer and to be honest, every disease. If you've got skin issues, you need to work on getting your mitochondria healthy. If you've got hormonal imbalances, if you're having, here's a perfect one for infertility. The male sperm actually is powered by a ton of mitochondria. And there's a ton of mitochondria that energy source is really what allows it to get to the egg. And then once it gets to the end of the egg, that mitochondria basically it dies off, and that's that. So that's why the mitochondria come from mom only. You got your mitochondria from your mom. I got my mitochondria from my mom. Everybody gets their mitochondria from the mom. So we have a female lineage passing mitochondria. You don't get them from dad ever. And so, mitochondria is critical. And if a couple is having a hard time getting pregnant, it's easy to blame the female, and it tends to happen all the time, but perhaps it's a male issue too, because mitochondria are getting damaged at every turn now. So if you're having a hard time getting pregnant, hey dad, wake up a little bit, fix your mitochondria, and you may just find that you can get pregnant. So mitochondria are critical. They're in every cell of the body except for essentially red blood cells. So, when we think about the heart and the liver and the brain, these sort of highly metabolic areas of the body, these organs are just filled with mitochondria. So if you want a healthy brain, you want a healthy heart, you want a healthy liver, you want healthy organ function, mitochondria, you got to fix those. You got to improve those. You got to constantly be thinking about ways to keep them healthy. And it's just simple. Sleep, eat on a right schedule, fast every once in a while, which goes back to every religion, has shown that fasting periods are beneficial, right? So again, when you're using sort of the Bible or any religious text to look at health, I didn't even grow up in a religious household, and yet I see tremendous value in these texts and these teachings, which is love everybody, community, eat in a way that's pretty darn healthy, regardless of what the religion is. You can make debates on either side, but the teachings they're all there for health, for our benefit. And so, it's another good filter, no matter what religious standpoint you take. Even if you're not religious, read the freaking Bible, read the whatever. It's very interesting. You find some really interesting, healthy things in there that you can apply, even if you don't want to be sort of subscribing to a religion. So I think the health solutions are simple, and understanding that the things you do and the things you think and the things that you emote are really where the rubber meets the road, and the biology will work itself out, generally speaking. And then you can look to therapies if you're in an extreme case.
Beautiful. And just to reiterate for everyone listening, Jason is a regular guy.
Just a regular dude. And I'm still learning. And this is the thing. I've always said, I hope I think differently next year. Right. Yeah, which is to say that I know I'm wrong about a lot of things right now.
Yeah.
And if I remain open, then maybe I'll change my viewpoint. And sometimes you get off track and then you come back. Right. So just remain open, continue to grow, continue to evolve your mind, your emotional mind. I think we just have to remain open, and it's not hard. This stuff isn't hard. You can make it hard, make it complex as you want, or you can bring it back to the simple factors. And I think it's pretty easy to say that nature's shown us a way, and that previous cultures have shown us a way, and our ancestors have shown us a way, and the Bible has shown us a way, and all these things that we can look to teach us. And we don't have to get caught up in this new modern scientific dogma that is constantly fighting, not only with each other, but with itself, right? I mean, 15, 20 years ago, we were blaming fats for everything. Now we're blaming sugars for everything. And I can tell you, even in the cancer world, sugar does not cause cancer. It's the artificial crap the artificial sugar, sure. But actually in Japan, they actually eat sugar cane, like the actual cane. They chop it down, they peel it, and they chew it. And the locals were telling me this is very good for people who have cancer. And I thought, wow. And if we think about that, and this is just a hypothesis, but we know that cancer loves sugar, right? It loves glucose, right? It feeds off glucose. And one of the things that you do to find cancer is you give somebody a bunch of glucose, and it lights up, and you can figure out where the cancer is. Well, what if that in this natural sugarcane plant that's organic, that's growing in the soil that you just basically chop down, what if there's compounds within that sugarcane that shuttle exactly? So what if the sugar is shuttling it right into the cancer cell, and there's components within that sugarcane that are disrupting the metabolic aspects of cancer cells? What if? Now, this is that science doesn't want to go there. Dogma doesn't want to go there. But again, nature is pretty cool, and if we trust the natural world, I think we're going to find that there's some pretty amazing things that are built within it. So, we have to really question what we think we know. And do we know it because somebody told us? Do we know it because an expert with a white coat on, or somebody that looks really smart, that speaks in a British accent with glasses on, or do we know it from experience? And do we know of it through history? And so I think if we start to change our viewpoints and open our minds to other things other than this white coat syndrome, we can really find out our truth, and we can really find some cool things that, again, the fish oil is a perfect example. There's a lot of debate, and all I can go is off of what I see and what I think through my philosophies. And to say that I have the answer is wrong. But I can remain open to it and see where it takes me.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. I'm glad you said everything you did. And for anyone listening that does want to, I don't know, I don't know if we really even explained the mitochondria and the full context of the theory and all that stuff, but for anyone listening that wants to go understand that and get the more geek out stuff, we've listened to Professor Seyfried and Travis Christofferson. Those episodes.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah. Travis is really good at explaining some of this stuff.
No, it's very good interview. And then on the fruit side, they can listen to Dr. Morse and Ryan Lelf. So very compelling interviews all around. There does happen to be a lot of anti-cancer compounds in fruit, and it's just very curious why nature put all those anti-cancer compounds in something that you're not allowed to touch.
I think it's crazy that we've demonized fruit. I think it's absolutely insane that we've demonized fruit. And I used to be in a camp that thought that, there was too much sugar in it. But no, I mean, I can tell anybody who listen to this that once I understood, I guess, a better framework for looking at things, I was suggesting that a lot of my clients that had autoimmune conditions, gut dysbiosis, all kinds of imbalances, SIBO, we can call them all whatever we want, but digestive issues. Fruit was whole organic fruits were one of the most powerful things that if I was able to convince somebody to try it, that worked for people to restore digestive function. I mean, the old saying, right? An apple a day keeps the doctor away. I mean, we laugh at that. But here's the other thing that I think people are missing about fruit too, which is you should probably eat the whole fruit. So when you're eating an apple, don't toss away the core and the seeds. Eat the core and the seeds. Watermelons are a really good example of this. We've bred out the seeds because we can't be bothered with spitting out the seeds, right? In the US, this is laughable. Not 30, 40, 50 years ago, this was a remedy where you would get watermelon seeds, you brew it in a tea, and that was really good for kidney function. So if you had kidney issues, watermelon seed tea was the way to go. So what if, when you're eating a watermelon, you're eating all the seeds? And I can tell you, they're actually quite tasty. They're like little nut seeds. I mean, they're just like regular stuff. So eat the whole fruit, eat the core, eat the seeds. And there's amazingly powerful compounds in those seeds. And why would that be? Because when a seed goes into the ground, the seed has to protect itself from being eaten by insects and parasites and fungi and all these things. So it has to have built within the seed very powerful phytochemical compounds that protect itself. Those are the phytochemical compounds that we benefit from, just like turmeric and curcumin. The reason that turmeric growing in the ground as a root doesn't get, eaten by all these organisms is because it has these powerful compounds. We are literally getting that information into our bodies, which can help us. So the seeds, the skins, the colors, the compounds, the phytochemicals, those are what feed our microbiota, feed the good microbiota. So if you want to restore balance, that's one of the ways you can do that. And they also provide something called microRNA, basically genetic information that will turn on certain things and turn off certain things. So I'm telling you, there's so much we're learning about the amazingly powerful compounds within fruits and vegetables and all kinds of root things and tubers. And I'll leave it there, but there's really powerful things that science doesn't know yet. So we can't look at science as a thing that has all the answers. It doesn't even come close. So if we just trust that those foods are really beneficial and really powerful and get out of our dogmas for a second, then we can at least try something that has a pretty darn good basis of success because it's growing in nature. We might find that we get really powerful healing properties from that food.
Yeah, no, this has all been very, very good. And this is also going to be a little bit of a longer interview, but it's good one. So I'll wrap it up with, this has kind of been the overarching theme of the whole discussion, I guess. But, you did just visit all of these different cultures, and I'm going to venture and living a more natural lifestyle, more attuned to the earth. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and say I would venture to guess you saw a lower rate of cancer in those
oh my gosh
cultures. Do you just want to just address that and maybe any speculations you might have to why that might be, and that'd probably be a good way to start wrapping it up.
Yeah, and this is what's interesting. I think this is why travel in general is so powerful, because we get so locked into our culture and we think we know what's happening in the world, and the things that we see in our culture aren't happening around the world. Cancer is almost non-existent in the cultures that we went to. And I mean, Japan, Greece, Italy, Guernsey, which is a little tiny island. There's all these places around the world where we just don't see cancer. And in some cultures don't even have a word for cancer because it doesn't exist, right? Why would you create a word for something that doesn't exist? And so it's happening at such lower rates. You can't even compare. Even some of the basic things that we find here in the US, like digestive issues and sleep issues, I would ask them, I said, does anybody have any digestive issues? And a couple of the ones that spoke English that I could actually have a conversation with would say, what do you mean? Like they can't go to the bathroom? And I'm like, well, yeah, or bloating or gas or anything. And they're like, no, like my grandpa, but he's like 86, And so it's just amazing to see that like the things that we consider so normal are not normal. They're just common here. They're not normal. And so I think the reason that we don't see these autoimmune conditions, digestive issues, and things like cancer around the world in all these cultures that are living in a more natural way is because everything about their life is facilitating health. They slow down. They're not moving at a pace that we are. So their stress levels are so much lower from a mental perspective. They have really good relationships and community around them. I asked like 25 people around the world that are in their 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s. I said, if you could offer me one piece of advice to live a long, healthy, happy life, what would it be? And almost every single person said something to the effect of hold no grudges and maintain good relationships with those around you. So now that may not be cancer advice you're going to read in a journal, but when 23 out of 25 people around the world tell you that that's really good health advice, you probably should listen. And if you've got cancer, that's still probably something you can work on and try to foster, right? So we have that. We have the fact that in some of these places, they didn't have electricity until 1970 or 1950, which means that if you're talking to a 90-year-old, they lived their childhood and much of their life without electricity, which means no electromagnetic radiation around them, no cell phones, no refrigeration. which means no freezers, which means they have to eat the foods that are around them that are in their seasons. So they lived very, very different lives. So we have to also consider that aspect of things, that no matter what we do in our culture, we'll never go back to that, right? We're not going to just eliminate electricity. So we have to think about some of these things. But generally speaking, there's a lot that they have done and are doing that we can implement, like foster good relationships, like eat organic, natural foods, preferably in season if possible, and definitely local is the best option. That's not always possible, I understand, but if we can at least switch the paradigm into thinking that way, then we can move forward. They move a lot, and they just move. They don't go to the gym. They don't do CrossFit. They don't do, none of the cultures we went to did yoga. I mean, maybe in Japan a little bit, but they don't have philosophies of movement other than to move. And one guy told me, actually, it was that same question. I said, if you could offer me one piece of advice. And he said, oh no, I think it was something else. I think I asked him, what has changed since you were a kid to now? And, that's concerning you. And he said, when I was young, the body was active and the mind was still. Now what I see is the mind is active and the body is still. And I thought, wow, that's pretty profound.
Yeah.
And so how can we move more? How can we walk and play and enjoy and just move? That is a huge component. We're sitting, we're in indoor lights. So they're out in nature. They're sleeping in a natural way, which is to say that they're not being disrupted by electromagnetic fields and lights and outdoor lights and indoor lights and TVs and phones and iPads, which disrupt our sleep. So there's just a lot of components that work into basically building health and maintaining health and also not contributing to disease. So I think this is the thing we have to get out of, is looking for a silver bullet, looking for the one thing that we need to do. There isn't one thing. You need to do as many as you can if you want to stay as healthy as possible as you get older. Because even the people that we talk to that are 90 and 100, I mean, they were declining. Some of them couldn't hear very well. They were getting sort of smaller and hunched over. They couldn't move as well. So it's not like they didn't get old and they didn't degenerate. It's just they didn't do it as fast and they weren't taking medications to keep them going. So I think that's, if anything, what we all want to shoot for is just however long we're here, we feel good and we can think. I mean, we can interact with other humans and we can do the things that we love, right? That's really, I think, what we're all wanting. Nobody that I know wants to live 300 years just to live 300 years. They want to be happy, right? So I think that's the key. And to do those things that keep us in that state is the critical factor. It's not looking for the solution, because there's not one. There's a lot of things in your local environment, in your mental and emotional environment, that you can alter and shift and move to a healthier state, which will facilitate physical health down the road.
Yeah, no, it's that was great too. But I forget who. Maybe it's a few people trying to coin the term like health span instead of lifespan.
Yeah.
Way to look at it.
It's 100%. I think it's a better way. And I would even say that health span is not even as important as happiness span, if you will.
Good stuff. Jay, let's go ahead and do our final two questions. I'd actually be interested to hear your answer. The first one, Jay, and it sounds like kind of what you're asking folks all along, but if you had to boil everything you knew down into 3 golden rules, and those golden rules would be on how to either stay healthy and disease-free or become healthy and disease-free, whichever you needed to do, what would those rules be?
I would say foster good relationships. I think that is critical. I would say remain open to any and all possibilities. Trust the magic that is life would be the second. And then cut yourself some slack. Give yourself some freedom. We're so wrapped up and uptight about things. I think, if you've made mistakes or whatever, let those go. Just keep moving forward. Love yourself. I think we need to foster the health within from an emotional and spiritual standpoint to be healthy. So that's probably the 3 golden rules, I would say.
Those are good ones. And lastly, just if you had any kind of like final thought or sentiment for anyone just going through cancer, either, for themselves or a loved one you want to take it out with, that'd be a good way to go.
Yeah, I would say, don't give up. Don't look at your situation as really dire. If you want to live and if you want to find solutions, keep working at it. Keep searching, keep talking to people, remain open. I think things will come to you. If you allow them and you're in the right space, you will find the answers. And there's nothing else worth fighting for. So there's too many people that have healed from cancer. It is not as dire as some of the medical profession would like us to believe. You have so much power in your own mind that I think that is where I would start, is to focus on your mindset and your emotional state and find the beauty that will allow you to move through it. And in the process, and I can't, and this is advice from coming from somebody who's never dealt with it. So, and I understand that. It's, take it for what it's worth, but I'll also say the more you can enjoy each day, the more you can try to just be in the process, and enjoy the fact that you're alive today. I think that has tremendous power to help you keep going. Try to stay in that positive mental, emotional, spiritual state and accept whatever it is. We don't know when we're going to go. We don't know what our future is. We don't know the struggles that we have coming for us. So the more you can be in a state of acceptance, compassion, joy, love, community, I think those are the important things no matter what you're dealing with. And you just do what you can and keep your mind open, and I think you'll find a good solution.
Incredible. Jason, where do folks find all things Jason Prall, and when does the movie come out?
Yeah, the film it'll come out in early May. So I'll just give you a link. That's probably the easiest. So you can put the link in there for people, but it's going to be free. The documentary is going to be free for, I think, 10 days or so. We're going to keep that open so that people can watch it without any barriers. And it's all about lifestyle. It's all about health philosophy. It's all about empowering you. So, and we have a whole episode dedicated to kind of cancer and Alzheimer's, or these old, what we think of as old people, but it's actually why we brought you guys in, because you dealt with a childhood case. And so, there's a lot in there that I think facilitate health. I'm hoping that it will be powerful for people to open their minds to some things that they can do personally to facilitate health. So really that's where I would focus. I would send people is just check out the film. We'll give you guys a link if they're interested, and just be on the lookout May 7th when we release.
May 7th. Be sure to put this out well before then. Jason, thanks so much for coming on. This has been a very good conversation. I know that is going to be very helpful to a lot of people.
Thank you so much for having me on. Always a pleasure.
There you go. I hope you really enjoyed that interview with Jason Prall. Again, please watch the Human Longevity Project. I promise you will not be disappointed. There's a lot of really cool health stuff in there if you're into health stuff, which if you're listening to this show or watching it, I'm sure you are. So again, you can find out how to, no, you can't find out. You can register to watch the whole thing for free at thesternmethod.com/Jason Prall. Prall, again, is spelled Prall. And again, everyone, thank you so much for hanging in there with us during the break from the podcast. We did not want it to go this long, but it's going to be well worth the wait. There's a lot of cool stuff on the horizon. And I've been itching to get back into it. I'm really glad to get to at least share this one episode with you, and I've been itching to do some more, so you might start seeing some episodes from us more regularly sooner than later. That's all for now. Good morning, good evening, good night, whenever it is you're watching this, and that's it. See you guys.